What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another weekly live stream here on Suns Digest. In today's episode, we're going to be going over some things revolving around the Phoenix Suns. As like you guys have already said in the chat, like Big Merc is saying, it's heating up for the Suns as they're gearing up for their things, getting ready for the draft, getting ready for some potential trades. We're going to be discussing and diving into all of that on this episode here on Suns Digest. We're going to go over Jordan Ott's introductory press conference, going over some things that I liked. Jordan Ott also getting an assistant coach getting hired to his staff already, and what that can mean for some other potential assistant head coaches going to Jordan Ott's staff. And then we'll dive into the Kevin Durant news. You guys have been absolutely fantastic, showing your support, and I am glad that our really very great supporters are here. King Nacho, Big Merc, Phoenix Suns #1 fan. How you guys doing today? Hope you guys are having a great time. We also have Adrian Yancey as well in here. What's up? How you doing today? Glad we could all have you guys into the stream. And King Nacho and Big Merc going, this is wild and it's heating up, putting me in a little bit of a Brian Gregory thing where Brian Gregory's buzzwords is the alignment and identity. Maybe my buzzwords are it's heating up and this is wild for us, and we can kind of joke about that as well. But once again, guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. We have a fun, fantastic stream to get into once again. And without further ado, let's really get into it. Big Merc, I'm doing great, by the way. Having a great day. Hope you guys are all having a great day. Give you guys a little bit of a tidbit of some side note stuff. I got some Pokemon packs, and if you guys like Pokemon or like cards in general, I'm going to be ripping these later today. I'm very excited. Some of the new English set, and hopefully we can get something good. But besides that, overall, great day. I had my article at Brightside do pretty solid as well, so if you guys missed that, definitely go check that out as well. I had a mock trade over on Brightside of the Sun. It is mock Kevin Durant trade week, with all the discussions and rumors really piling in. And we dove in and discussed. I dove in and wrote a nice article giving the Suns a 3-team deal, lending them another star, sending Kevin Durant to his preferred destination. It seemed to be popping off over on Safari and stuff like that. So if you guys missed that, definitely check that out. But let's dive in. Like I mentioned, too much yapping and stuff like that. We're going to get into some stuff revolving around the Phoenix Suns. Like I mentioned, Jordan Ott had his introductory press conference just 2 days ago, and me personally, I really liked a lot of things from Jordan Ott's introductory press conference. And we're going to dive in and explore what those things were here just in a second once I pull up the tweets from that day. Here they are. And boom. Here we go. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is my Twitter. If you're not already following me over on Twitter or not, what are you doing? That's where you can get a lot of updates revolving around the Suns that we don't post over on Suns Digest as well. But like I mentioned, I thought this was a great introductory press conference from Jordan Ott. He said, like I said a week ago when I wrote my article, that he was not a doomsday hire. And as many of you guys know, I talked about that on this channel a bunch here, that I didn't think that he was a doomsday hire. And I hope we can all now agree to actually buy into this man, respect him, and give him his flowers, and finally buy into his system here for the Phoenix Suns, as it's going to be a great kind of new mold that he's trying to bring in. Like I mentioned, he said he wants, Brian Gregory said this about Jordan Ott, saying that he's a guy that players want an honest coach and an honest evaluation, and said players want standards to be held accountable for that, and that's what Jordan Ott is going to be doing for this Phoenix Suns team. They also said, Brian Gregory from Gerald Bourguet, that substance commands the room now, where Brian Gregory said that they consulted multiple players and coaches around the league to sculpt the profile of what a successful NBA coach looks like, and Suns Hall of Famer Steve Nash gave him that line that stuck with Gregory, especially in regards to Jordan Ott. Jordan Ott was also asked about this Michigan State connection, and he was saying that he's earned the right to be here, spent 20 years working as hard as he possibly can to be in this spot, and he's know how hard he's worked to get this opportunity, so he's excited to prove that to people. I'm very excited to see what Jordan Ott can do as well to really prove some of these doubters. I've mentioned multiple times on the channel, I had a video dropped about it, but there was a report coming from Drain Rankin a couple weeks ago, or just last week, talking about how Jordan Ott specifically worked with Evan Mobley this season and was a great mentor for him in developing him for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And we all know the Cavs were very successful when they had two dominant big men in Mobley and Allen, but obviously Mobley really shined through this season, winning the Defensive Player of the Year on the defensive side. And for the Suns, a team that really lacked that defensive connectivity and even defensive effort last season, that's all you really want to hear coming into this season, is that a guy like Jordan Ott is hopefully going to be able to bring that potential out with the players that he has around him. And with the Suns, which we'll get into a little bit, rumored to maybe potentially even land a lottery pick or someplace around the lottery in a trade for Kevin Durant, I do think there are some plausible bigs out there that Jordan Ott could bring in that could fit that mold and really be really sound for the Phoenix Suns, in my opinion. And that's what I want to see from Jordan Ott. He mentioned as well, I'm going to pull this up from Gerald Bourget, but he mentioned this as well when asked about his philosophies that he's going to bring. Jordan Ott mentioned that the Suns are going to play faster and play early on the clock. They need movement, and there's going to be a lot of cutting and finding ways to get extra possessions on offense. He noticed that that's how these teams have been successful in the playoffs, teams like you guys have been mentioning in the playoffs, which I will get to that answer in a little bit for you, Phoenix Suns #1 fan, talking about the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. But as you can see, both teams in the finals have, one really star player in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Tyrese Halliburton, and then they have a pretty solid secondary guy, and then really great role players or guys that really upplay their value, and they all do what Jordan Ott was displaying, right? The Pacers and the Thunder play fast. They play early in the clock. They have lots of movement in their offense. They cut to the basket. They find ways to get extra possessions by getting offensive rebounds. And then defensively, they are aggressive. They bring that effort. They communicate, and they play connectively. And that's what we've seen from the successful teams throughout the playoffs. And that's what Jordan Ott saw and was coaching over when he was with Kenny Atkinson this season with the Cleveland Cavaliers, because their team this season was pretty solid offensive team led by Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, Ty Jerome, who was a great superstar underlying piece for them on the point guard position, but also defensively. Guys like I mentioned, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Defensive Player of the Year. They had DeAndre Hunter, who was a late season addition, who really sparked for them and helped them at the wing position. So ultimately, I do think a guy like Jordan Ott is going to try to maybe kind of replicate a certain mold like that. I do see the Phoenix Suns, obviously, with them trying to shed salary, looking to go away from the 2 to 3 star kind of big contract team and kind of trying to fill Devin Booker out with feasible contracts or relatively tradable contracts. So the Phoenix Suns, at the point, if they do need to get an upgrade or they do see that this team can reach that potential to go and get that started, really put them over the top, they can go out and do so. And that's something that I really, really am interested in as well with the Phoenix Suns. But one thing I want to mention with the Suns as well here regarding Jordan Ott's post-game press, introductory press conference, and then we'll dive into the news revolving around something with his head coaching staff, is that Ryan Dunn, Oso Guardado, Royce O'Neal, and Jalen Bridges were all there at Jordan Ott intro presser today. And one key thing to know about Jordan Ott is he's coached Summer League. He really likes playing with some of these young guys. And like I mentioned, he's coached some really young teams, like the Brooklyn's teams before they got Kevin Durant and James Harden and Kyrie Irving. But he's also coached young players as well, like Jalen Tyson on the Cavs, and worked with Evan Mobley, a young player that's really developing in this league. So I really do think this is key for those guys and Ryan Dunn, Oso Guardado to be at this press conference, because it once only shows that the fear of maybe them kind of getting traded or maybe even being shelved down the lineup like Mike Budenholzer was really doing last offseason isn't going to be true. And I do see, Ryan Dunn and Oso Guardado making some key impacts on this Phoenix Suns team. I do think at this point we kind of see Ryan Dunn starting, and I wouldn't be, mad if Ryan Dunn started, but also looking at Oso Guardado, I think he can be a pretty solid backup big in the NBA or even a backup power forward depending on what Jordan Ott wants to use him. Royce O'Neal, obviously a key veteran, someone that if they had to trade one of the two contracts out of Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal, I would rather keep Royce O'Neal in my opinion, as I think he brings a lot of value at that wing position, and the Suns already have some scoring guards in Booker, Beal, maybe Colin Gillespie if he comes back, and etc. And then Jalen Bridges, obviously a G League player, but I wouldn't mind Jalen Bridges maybe being the 14th, 15th guy on the roster if the Phoenix Suns do see some potential in him. Once again, I did not watch many Valley Suns games this year, so I can't really speak too much on a player in Jalen Bridges, but I do know that I've heard some things, shout out to Suns Worldwide, where he said that he did see a player in Jalen Bridges play this season, and he was pretty solid. So if he ends up as the 14th or 15th guy on the roster, I wouldn't be mad about that, especially if this Suns team is looking to stay with some cheap contracts. Keeping a guy that was on a two-way last year and giving him that promotion would definitely be key. But even if not, if he is brought back on that two-way contract, it gives the guy in Jalen Bridges the opportunity to really excel in this Phoenix Suns system and potentially earn his way to getting a standardized contract in the near future. We all saw what happened with Colin Gillespie last year on the two-way contract, and that possibility could be optional for a guy in Jalen bridges. But like I mentioned, really good introductory press conference from Jordan Ott. I know my guy, John Voita over on Suns Jam was actually at the press conference, and I watched his video his podcast yesterday where he talked about a guy in Jordan Ott, and after they had that press conference of asking the questions, the media people were then able to exchange words with Jordan Ott, and he said that he was very friendly, obviously meant serious business, and when he gave him a handshake, that he shook his hand firm and looked him dead in the eyes, and he said that he has full confidence in a guy in Jordan Ott, and is kind of like leaning to believe that he could be a guy that could be pretty solid for the Suns team, to not be doomers. You know what I mean? Like, obviously the introductory press conference doesn't mean everything. We'll have to see what a guy in Jordan Ott really does out there. But obviously some good signs telling for a guy in Jordan Ott coming into Phoenix, making a good impression, I guess I would say, at that introductory press conference. And like I said, kind of speaking on Jordan Ott as well, we do have some news regarding the assistant coach staff, as we do know that Jordan Ott what is said to bring in his coaching staff in this month. We do know that was said at the press conference by Brian Gregory and Jordan Ott. And we did hear from John Gambadoro that David Fizdale, someone who has been an assistant for the Suns for a couple seasons, working with the team, and also was in consideration for head coach this year, will not be returning to the Phoenix Suns this season on Jordan Ott's coaching staff. But we did hear one name that did come in yesterday, and this was courtesy of Michael A. Scotto, where we saw yesterday that Jordan, just in Phoenix Suns coach Jordan Ott has added DeMarre Carroll as an assistant coach to his bench. If you guys obviously remember DeMarre Carroll, I think many people vividly remember him from the Atlanta Hawks team back in 2013 or 2014, I think it was, maybe even 2015, where they were the number one seed in the Eastern Conference with Jeff Teague, Ken Bazemore, DeMarre Carroll, Paul Millsap, and Al Horford, and they were really good and Kyle Korver. They were a really good regular season team that ultimately got swept by the Cleveland Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals. They decided to disband after that. Carroll obviously played with some other franchises as well, including the Nets, where he was coached by Jordan Ott, but they've also worked together as assistant head coaches in Los Angeles and over in Cleveland as well last season. And I mentioned DeMarre Carroll was an 11-year NBA veteran who played for 8 different franchises across the league. Obviously the Nets, which was coached by Jordan Ott, but also coached with him in 2 spots in LA and Cleveland. I do think that DeMarre Carroll can bring some nice stuff for the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, we do know that the Phoenix Suns wanted some people that could connect with them and, I guess could communicate a little bit better than them. And we did hear that having ex-players or people that had played in the NBA was a big voice of reason for the Phoenix Suns, as they didn't really have that with their previous head coaches, with guys like Mike Budenholzer and Frank Vogel. And a guy like DeMarre Carroll fits that bill, in my opinion. Now, I haven't done as much research to know where DeMarre Carroll really fits on the coaching spectrum, right? Is he a really offensive coach? Is he a defensive coach? I would kind of figure he's more of a defensive guy just because that's kind of his more physical type and how he played in the NBA. But obviously, we'll have to see how impactful DeMarre Carroll can be. Once again, there'll be more names dropping as well, joining Jordan Ott's coaching staff, and we could see some other coaches around the league, maybe some other Cleveland Cavaliers coaches coming over to Phoenix. We could see some other teams as well, potentially around the league, losing some guys that are on their coaching trees to go into Jordan Ott's squad. So definitely something keen to keep an eye on as well. I want to go back to the comments because you guys have been talking for a while. I obviously discussed my Jordan Ott stuff and what I wanted to talk about for him. So we'll go into the comment section and then we'll get into some of the trade discussion. So Phoenix Suns #1 fan asked if I'm dropping a video today. I will not be dropping a video today, but I will be having one for you guys tomorrow. There's really not much news on the Suns, right? Like, we'll get into it in a little bit revolving around the Kevin Durant situation, but it's basically the same stuff that I have been posting on the channel, right? The same teams are interested. Shams Charania, once again, similar to the Boston Celtics, is just repeating the same stuff about the Phoenix Suns, and there's no really concrete information. We know Kevin Durant can potentially get traded, right? We all know that the Suns are working to get a deal done. Their goal is to get the trade done by the draft. It's looking like the deal will get done by the draft. It could get done this week. It could get done in 48 hours. It could get done next Tuesday. It could get done the day after the finals. It could get done 2 hours before the draft. There's really a lot of uncertainty revolving around it. So once again, nothing really much to report on that side of stuff, but we'll get into it a little bit more. Yancey's here saying, I'm doing well, man. Just got home from work. Excited for all the news. Well, I'm glad you tuned in. I'm glad that we're able to have this great discussion. I haven't seen you in the chat before, so I'm glad that you are here hanging out with all of us here down below. Phoenix Suns #1 fan asked about Pacers or Thunder. Personally, I think And I said this at the beginning that the Thunder were going to win in 6. I still think it is possible for the Thunder to win. Going into the series, I did think the Thunder were the better team. And I do think that overall the Thunder still do have a chance to win. But personally, I want the Pacers to win because I think the Pacers would be a cool underdog story. Even though, obviously, if the Thunder win, I wouldn't mind. I think they were the best team in the NBA, so I think they're very deserving of winning the NBA title. I'm rooting for the Pacers. But ultimately, regardless of what team wins, I'm happy because the Pacers never won an NBA title, and then obviously the Thunder did, but they won as the Supersonics. So the Thunder haven't won a title yet either, right? So in my opinion, as an NBA fan and just a fan of the sport of basketball, I get to see one fan base get to be super excited, similar to how we will be when we eventually win our first NBA championship. And that's just a great moment to see, right? Like, you remember how excited we were in the 2021 finals and how important that was to us. So I do think for those fans, like the Thunder got people and the Pacers people, you got to feel for them being in this moment, right? They don't get to experience this opportunity that much, similar to how the Phoenix Suns have been obviously regarded in the history of going to the NBA finals. So it's just great to see those franchises get that opportunity to strike, and hopefully our opportunity is in the chances, right? Kind of seeing how these teams have been built. We can kind of go in that when we get into the Kevin Durant discussion. I don't think the Phoenix Suns are completely shot out of the dark being led by Devin Booker, with some great role players and some great guys that can play some great defense, led by Jordan Ott, if this team can really get the right pieces around him. But let's continue to dive in. Thunder, but Pacers are looking good too. I got Thunder, but SGA can be some problems with his free throws. Do you know what they're going to do with Beal or not? So at the moment, we do not know what they're going to do with Bradley Beal. John Gambadoro, the Phoenix Suns insider, has reported multiple times that the Phoenix Suns do not want Bradley Beal. They will be looking to stretch and waive him. At the moment, we don't necessarily know what is going to happen. I know that people have seen some stuff on Twitter of the Charlotte rumor. I don't buy that. I don't see him wanting to go to Charlotte, and I don't see them finding a trade that's going to work for him to get to Charlotte. So ultimately, something to keep an eye on. I would just expect the sign and waive, or expect him to be brought back, and I expect it to be done after the Durant situation, going into free agency. There is about a week before free agency starts after the draft, to where the Suns can kind of address that situation going into free agency, knowing how much money that they fully have on the open market, giving Beal also the best chance. And I would expect that to transpire between the day after the draft, the 26th, leading up to July 1st for you, Phoenix Suns #1 fan. Big Merc, I'm optimistic about this Jordan Ott fellow. That's what I'm saying. You got to be optimistic. You got to be optimistic. You really, really have to be. I want Phoenix Suns fans to remember this, that obviously with Coach Budenholzer, with Frank Vogel, we all had these high expectations. But if you have been a fan for the channel for a while, I was not big on Mike Budenholzer when he got hired. I was not big on Mike Budenholzer. The only thing that changed me was the start of the season, on how good the Suns really looked. They came out 8-1. After that, though, they completely fell off. So I was optimistic. I was a little bit optimistic with that one, but this one I'm actually bought in. I really liked his press conference. He seemed confident in all of his answers. He gave off the perception that he, once again, has been fighting for this his whole life, and he knows that this is his opportunity to really shine and showcase across the league and to the Phoenix Suns doubters out there that I can do this and I can be your guy to really change this culture around. And who wouldn't want to be that, right? A first-time guy head coach leading a team to a potential championship in the future and winning that franchise's first NBA championship. You know how satisfactory that's going to mean for him. You know how engraved he would be into the Phoenix Suns fan base and into their history if he was able to do that. I mean, you got to think of all those possibilities for him and what that could mean for the team and the legacy, and that's what Brian Gregory and Matt Ishbia are trying to do, right? And I truly think that Jordan Ott can be that guy that could take us to that promise land. Like Yancey kind of said, he really wanted Bryant, but he's liking what he's hearing and seeing out of Ott. Personally, that's the same way with me too. But I do think the reason why is because I heard a lot more about Bryant than I heard about Jordan Ott, to be honest. And I do agree with you, Yancey, that I think Bryant would have been a great candidate. But from what they heard, everything with Ott really stuck out. So I'm siding with it. Like I said, Brian Gregory might not be the most qualified. Matt Ishbia might have made some dumb trades that obviously I don't agree with. But this new change of the Phoenix Suns is something we all have to kind of, I guess, get used to, because it's not changing. It's not like they're selling the team or getting a new owner. This is what we're going to have to evaluate. So we're going to have to see what they can do and just, I guess, trust That's all you really can do. And then when that happens, then we can form our opinions, right? If they make some bogus trades, if we get some weird stuff back, then we can be frustrated. But there's no need to be frustrated until they've yet to make a move. Wait till the draft. You have a lot of material to talk about. That's what I'm saying. Obviously, once leading up to now, there's a lot of just rumors around Kevin Durant. But once Kevin Durant obviously gets traded, there'll be the trade video. Then we'll do some videos on some of the players they got back. Were the players that they got back good? Were they not? Did the Suns fleece in the trade? Did the Suns get fleeced? There's going to be so much discussion around that. Then when the draft comes out on draft day, I will let you guys know. Obviously, I'm going to be doing videos on Celtics Digest as well. But we're going to get you a draft video out that night regarding the Suns' first round pick. I know the Suns have pick 29 here in the first round, so it will be a later selection. But I definitely will be live not live, but I will definitely be giving you guys a video regarding that pick and their second round selection as well. And then once we get into free agency, we can kind of pick and see who's available, who do we like, who do we dislike, who can the Suns sign, and then we'll ultimately see who they do sign to kind of bring back this team. Because with trading Kevin Durant, you got to realize that if they're taking back less salary, that also gives them more money in free agency. But also if they trade a guy like Grayson, Royce, or even if they get out Beal's money, that's just going to free them up to make even more moves this offseason and bring even more talent in, which could make it very exciting for Phoenix Suns fans. Yeah, Bruce, I typically try to catch the shows each day after the fact, but this is my first time catching a live. Well, I'm awesome that you're in here, man. Once again, thank you for showing the support, even watching them the second day after or something like that. That's the whole point of them going up as VODs, so I really do appreciate when you can come in. I know over in Phoenix, it's just a little bit more difficult for you guys. Obviously, it's during the day. It's 3 o'clock, so it's a little bit more of a harder time for you guys to get in here. So with the people that are in the stream whenever they can be, I really do appreciate you guys, taking the time out of your day to catch it, or even if you do catch it after, or the next day, or whenever it pops up on your feed. As long as you enjoy the content that we do provide, I really do appreciate it. Because once again, not only am I doing this, but I'm just trying to get into the NBA media field. That is my main goal. I'm trying to, be a reporter, to hopefully want to work with people like, Ben and Brendan Clean and John, and actually be in the media space. So one day I very hope that I can be able to do that. And this is just the beginning of that. And your guys' support of just showing it here on YouTube and showing the support of my articles just really means a lot. So thank you once again. But now to get into the Kevin Durant part of the video that most of the people probably clicking in here for, right, is the discussions. And we all know, we've heard the talks, the rumors. If you're on social media, I know Big Merc, King Nacho, I don't know Phoenix Suns #1 fan, or Yancey, if you guys have Twitter or if you guys use X. But there's been a lot of discussions, right, of trades. And over the last couple days, there's been breaking, this team's offering this package. Last night, there were reports coming out from accounts saying the Suns were interested in a 3-team deal, where I'm not even going to repeat what was said because it's just ridiculous, right? So to clarify all of that up, when we regard Kevin Durant trades, I just want to give you guys a big reminder that when you take a piece of Arizona news, you need to realize who it's coming from. And if the news is not coming from Shams Charania, who's at ESPN, John Gambadoro, who's the main Phoenix Suns insider, Gerald Bourguet, Kellen Olson, or Dwayne Rankin, someone that works for the paper or someone that's doing stuff in the Suns media field, you cannot believe it. And that was brought up once again today, as John Gambadoro tweeted out, the vast majority of stuff you're reading on Kevin Durant trades are not even close. This is that time of year where rumors and speculation are some bad reporting and going wild. Nothing moved on KD yet. It will happen, but it is not close. Ben Garcia, who I was lucky enough to have on the show from Locked On Suns, said people will choose to believe the people who, with no profile picture or who are wrong a vast majority of the time, rather than real reporting. Classic. Oh, I am missing flex. Thank you, W. I am missing flex. Yes. Classic. Again, it's a slap in the face to people who have spent their lives developing relationships to break these stories. And once again, that's the key sentiment there from Ben at the end. It's a slap in the face to the people who spent their lives developing relationships to break these stories. Like I just said to you guys, I'm trying to do this. You can't just throw out just random stuff out there on the market. You can write mock trades and say mock trade in it, but that's what you can do, right? And that's what I've done and stuff like that, but you can't be doing this type of stuff, and it's really ridiculous. I've seen the Devin Booker pictures, the Kevin Durant pictures, tweeting out stuff, and it just needs to stop. So, with that all being said, unless it's a key Phoenix Suns person that is trusted and you know is trusted by a lot of people, do not believe it. And then, let's dive into the Kevin Durant news. Shams Charania, once again, on ESPN today, speaking his usual jibber jabber, as I would like to say. Shams does a great job reporting, but I will say that with certain aspects, he just is saying the same stuff. And in today's episode of ESPN, he did that as well, where Shams Charania reported here on the NBA show today the latest on the Phoenix Suns trade conversations around Kevin Durant. And basically, Shams said teams are talking to Kevin Durant. We all know that this could pick up. This could get done by the draft. It could get done. It's going to get by the draft. It could get done on draft night. It could get done in the next couple days. Steam is picking up. Teams are talking, but there's nothing concrete yet. Mention the teams once again. The same five that we've been hearing consistently: the Spurs, the Rockets, the Rockets, the Heat, the Knicks, and the Timberwolves. Excuse me. Yes, those five. Those are the five that he's been mentioning. There's obviously those wild card suitors that we've seen been thrown around as well. I know people have kind of speculated. I've speculated that they're Atlanta, because Atlanta's been somehow connected. But once again, is that Kevin Durant going to Atlanta to play with Trae Young? If that's the case, I don't think that takes Atlanta over the mountaintop. And that's like interesting on what we would get back ultimately, really, in my opinion, because with that, there's so many possibilities. Do we get back a Clint Capella, a Jalen Johnson? They're not going to trade Reza Shea. Like, they're not trading Dyson. Like, what are we getting back? I genuinely, if we got Dyson back, that would be amazing. Or are they trading us Trae? Which, then again, I don't know why Kevin Durant wants. I mean, it makes sense. They're a young rising team that's pretty good defensively, but it doesn't really make sense. I don't know. So that kind of confuses me. Trae also I don't really think fits well with Devin Booker, in my opinion. Especially if you have Beal on the roster still. So that's where I stand. And then Toronto, I just don't see Durant wanting to go to Toronto. Maybe Toronto's involved as a third to fourth team, but that's what I think. But ultimately, the trade's going to be done before draft day, ultimately, because the Suns, I think, want to get a draft pick. Suns have been working out lottery-level talents. The Suns have been connected to potentially wanting to take a lottery pick. And I think that that's what's ultimately going to happen. That's why I think the Suns want to get this trade done before draft day, is because all of those teams that we just mentioned have a first-round pick that is pretty relevant. The Houston Rockets obviously have the Suns' 10th pick this year, which could be very valuable for the Suns to get back. The Spurs have the 14th overall pick, which isn't too far off. And when you look at this NBA mock drafts, a lot of the players, right, 1 and 2, pretty set in stone who they're going to be. We just don't know what team they're going to be on, obviously, yet. It's projected that's going to be Dallas and San Antonio from what we've heard. But obviously, things could obviously shake up leading to the draft. VJ Edgecombe, Ace Bailey, there have been conversations with 3. There have been conversations about Philly potentially trading that pick. That's a conversation to be held. Then, really, after that, you then get into the Common Malawak, Fears. You get into the Con Canepo, the Trey Johnson, all those guys. And then after that, you really get into anyone, right? There's a lot of people that are going from like 8-9 to 20, and on each mock draft they are just swapped. So for the Suns, realistically getting either 14 or 10 could be solid, because you can get a player that once again can make an impact right away, potentially, with this team, but also on a rookie scale contract, something easily to build upon alongside Devin Booker to make the salary obviously be cheaper if the player does rise and become a star player, or you can use that piece to go out and get another star player, or potentially even save you from having to, I guess, use multiple contracts to go and trade that star player because you already have one on the roster making a rookie scale contract. So that's where I look at it. There's a guy that I really like in Thomas Sorber that I think can make a lot of sense for the Suns if they land around there. I believe Minnesota has pick 20 as well, so they're around there. Miami, I think, has pick 17 or something like that, 18. So once again, they're roughly right around end of the lottery. So the Knicks are the only team that don't have a first-round pick, and that's why I don't think it's going to be the Knicks, and for multiple other reasons, with the Suns not wanting Karl-Anthony Towns, reported by John Gambadoro. I don't think they're going to trade OG Anunoby, and it doesn't make sense to trade back for Mikal Bridges. I just think that, once again, sentiments that the trade did not work in the Phoenix Suns' favor, and I don't think they want to send that message across the league. So when you come to that kind of conclusion, it really pushes them into those four other teams. Maybe there's some other wild cards. Maybe a team like Denver gets involved. Maybe a lurky team like Boston decides to talk about it, but ultimately where it stands with Kevin Durant, I do think we will see him ending up going to one of the four plausible destinations: San Antonio, Miami, Houston, or Minnesota. I do think, in my opinion, once again, like I've said, San Antonio makes the most sense for a Kevin Durant fit. They have, even if the pieces are sent off in a third-team trade or a four-team trade for the Suns to get some other aspect back, they have the tradable contracts to get Kevin Durant, but also the tradable contracts that they do have for Kevin Durant are the same position as Kevin Durant. Keldon Johnson and Jeremy Sohan, Harrison Barnes can make up the size for Durant, and then the Spurs would have the flexibility to use that money in free agency to go and bring in some other stars. Durant on the wing alongside Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox with some solid defenders, and scoring off the bench is going to be a team to be reckoned with, not only just this season, but for 2 or 3 more seasons with Durant under that roster, depending on how large the extension that he decided to sign there. Like I mentioned, other teams as well he can make an impact, but I do think the San Antonio Spurs make the most sense for Kevin Durant and the Phoenix Suns, ultimately in my opinion, even if it is a 3-team trade. But that's where we're cutting with the discussions here today. Once again, it's really already started with Durant. Like I mentioned, they already have had these discussions. They're trying to get a deal done. They're trying to work something before the NBA draft, and we'll have to really stay and put and to see what happens. Oh my God, excuse me. But that's what we're going to break down. Sorry about that. But that's what we're going to break down at the end today. I tried to finish the stream before I had to let out the sneeze, but that wasn't going to be able to happen. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, being here for the stream. We had a great one once again today, this Thursday. I really do appreciate all the support from everyone that was in here. King Nacho, W, Sol H. Soto, Adrian Yancey, Big Merc, Phoenix Suns #1 fan. I really do appreciate all your guys' support on these streams. Once again, we're trying to get guests on here every single week. I will be reaching out to more people over the next couple weeks to try to get them on. Once again, with the Suns getting more involved, there'll be more discussions, more things to kind of break down and talk about. So hopefully there'll be some more drama, more stuff to really break down for you guys instead of just kind of talking about speculation and stuff. Like I said, hopefully we see a Kevin Durant trade in the next coming days. I don't know if it will be done by the finals. Like, I know they can trade him during the finals. It is possible, but I don't know if it will happen. But that's also something to keep monitoring as well. Like I said, the draft is less than 2 weeks away. It is not next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after that. So definitely keep a key eye out for that as well when looking at that. But once again, thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day. Peace out, and go Phoenix Suns.